We use a lot of hybrid 2D3 symbols in our workflow. Quite often the design is simply on one design layer sent to the client. In this modern idiom, Vectorworks has added this Component Edit Dialog box, which is an obstruction in most times. I wish I could close it like most every other palette, but I am unable to. I simply move it out of the way and tolerate it. You will find that you use it under certain circumstances. So far it's been an aggravation because you need to use it for hidden line rendered viewports. So if you make a drawing without hidden line rendering in your viewports, or if you make a drawing without viewports, a very common thing, very common workflow, this element, this Component Edit Dialog box seems to just be in the way. So if we're going to render something and we want to edit in advance, the hybrid needs to change the 3D and the 2D to have similar characteristics. In this case, we're changing the top of a table. It'll have a different color. The initial creation of a 2D, 3D hybrid is simple, but the editing is a little more complex. So if we start in the 2D component, we can easily edit it, but then it seems to be an item where you need to switch over to the 3D view. So again, if you simply make a presentation based on your design layer, which is quite easy to do, you don't need viewports. So let's look at this and see what we can do to minimize the issue. If we start with the 3D portion, you can easily use the Component Edit Dialog box to switch to top plan. Now it just says top, so that's confusing. I tend to ignore it because it looks at the item. It's a screen plane item, now called top plan component, and you can switch back and forth. Now, if you see these other options in here, they're grayed out. That's because they don't exist for this hybrid symbol. Many hybrid symbols were created long before the ability to do this component edit. So you'll be dealing with 2D, screen plane, and 3D. Now notice that you can set the Component Edit Dialog box to show the 3D when you are looking at the top plan 2D, the screen plane component of your hybrid symbol. Here we're going back and forth between the two. The disadvantage here is that you may not be able to change what you want. Another bit of confusion is this low, medium, high. People think that that refers to how it will render. Low, medium, high refers to additional detailing. You should think of it more as simple, normal, and complex details. Again, hidden line rendered viewports is where this part of the Component Edit Dialog box would show up. If we notice, the Component Edit Dialog box lets you switch between top and 3D in a traditional 2D, 3D hybrid symbol. The other items, if you don't add them, are grayed out. If you simply render in the design layer as your presentation, these other components are not needed. Keep in mind that the 2D is visible when you're selecting the 3D, so you can edit that way, but if you want to reference the 3D, while you're in the top, that's good. If you want to reference the 2D editing and look at what the 3D is, this doesn't work that way. What I found is a workaround is to create simplistic items in the 3D mode, what one might consider a layer plane, then edit the symbol again, changing them from layer plane to screen plane. I've also noticed that there is the potential for error when trying to draw between these modes, between the 2D and 3D, using the Component Edit Dialog box. Now, some of this is all referenced back to the initial creation. You can have 2D and 3D components together in a group, for example, and before you make them into a symbol, they're easy to edit. They're easy to reference one to the other. Often the 3D is drawn first, then the 2D is added, or some people tend to draw things 2D and extrude and add to the 2D to get a 3D component, putting the two together in the creation symbol. Now, having a 2D screen item, which is normal for a hybrid symbol, means you have a solid object often. Notice that hitting the B key, which is what I call X-ray, you can look through it. This gives you a chance to see the 3D in the same top plan view. A couple things that are not as desirable are issues of creation when you are trying to create things between these two modes, 2D and 3D. It's not an impossibility. It just appears as though Vectorworks looks at them in regards to the working plane rather than the layer plane. And again, the term top is a bit confusing, but just look at it as top plan. Make your items in a layer plane, for example, then go to the OIP and switch them to screen plane. This is not ideal, but at the same point, there is a limit to what you can do. Again, in 2D mode, you can see the 3D, but in 3D mode, you can't see the 2D. Inside of this component edit, you are able to use the OIP. It makes life easy to position things at 0, 0. If you use it as your basis, then adding to or editing is another way of controlling where things are. Again, the OIP is what you would use for mathematically entering dimensions, entering sizes, entering geometry. No hidden line viewports. The component edit dialog box just doesn't go away. So this feature is part of Vectorworks now, even if you never have the reason to use it. A lot of workflows use a simple design layer. Hope this helps with your rendering. Thanks for watching.